What if an electronic device could talk to living brain cells in their own language? That sounds like science fiction, but in April 2026, engineers at Northwestern University reported printed artificial neurons that successfully triggered responses in real mouse brain tissue. To be clear, this is not a robot brain, and it is not a conscious machine. It is a small, flexible device designed to imitate the electrical spikes used by real neurons. But the important part is this. When researchers connected the artificial signal to slices of mouse cerebellum, the living neurons responded. That is why the result matters. Modern computers are incredibly powerful, but they are also brutally inefficient compared with the brain. A data center can consume enormous amounts of electricity and generate huge amounts of heat. The human brain, meanwhile, runs on roughly the power of a dim light bulb and still handles vision, movement, memory, language, and prediction at the same time. For years, researchers have tried to build brain-like hardware. The field is called neuromorphic computing. The idea is not to copy the brain perfectly, but to borrow its most important trick. Information is carried by spikes, timing, bursts, and changing networks, not just by billions of identical switches flipping on and off. The problem is that many artificial neurons are too simple. Some produce basic pulses, but real neurons are much richer. They can fire once, fire continuously, burst in patterns, pause, adapt, and respond differently depending on context. If your artificial neuron cannot produce that kind of complexity, you need a much larger system to approximate what biology does naturally. Northwestern's approach is different. The team used soft, printable electronic inks made from nanoscale flakes of molybdenum disulfide and graphene. These materials were deposited onto flexible polymer substrates using aerosol jet printing. Normally, imperfections in printed electronics are treated as a problem. In this case, the researchers turned one of those imperfections into a feature. By partially decomposing the polymer inside the device, they created a narrow conductive pathway. When current flows through that pathway, the device can generate sudden neuron-like spikes. Not just one kind of spike either. The artificial neurons produced single spikes, continuous firing and bursting patterns that resemble the way real neurons communicate. Then came the key test. The team applied signals from the printed artificial neurons to living mouse brain tissue. The timing and shape of the artificial voltage spikes matched biological signals closely enough to activate real neural circuits. In plain English, the printed neuron did not just look brain-inspired on a diagram, it communicated with actual neurons. That could matter in two very different ways. First, it could help build more efficient computers. If each artificial neuron can encode richer information, future systems might need fewer components and less power for complex tasks. Second, it could improve the interface between electronics and the nervous system. Today's brain implants and neuroprosthetics already help with movement, hearing, and vision in limited ways. But the more naturally electronics can communicate with neurons, the better future implants may become. Imagine a device that does not simply blast the nervous system with crude electrical pulses, but speaks in patterns that cells actually recognize. That could eventually influence prosthetic limbs, vision restoration, hearing implants, or treatments for damaged neural circuits. But there is a reality check. This is still early research. It was tested in brain tissue, not as a medical implant in a person. There are huge steps between a successful lab demonstration and a safe device inside the human body. Durability, biocompatibility, immune response, long-term stability, and precise control. Still, the direction is important. For decades, electronics and biology have mostly spoken different languages. Silicon chips use rigid digital logic. Neurons use soft, messy chemical and electrical signaling. This work is a small step toward a bridge between those worlds. The future may not be computers that replace brains. It may be machines that finally learn how to communicate with living tissue. And if that works, brain implants, prosthetics, and energy-efficient computing could change faster than most people expect.